Hello, happy winter solstice. It's 1 o'clock and we've just had a 1 hour gathering at noon. And you know how you're doing something good when your technology fails you. So I wasn't able to record the gathering. So I'm going to do a recording for everybody. We had about 45 people that gathered live, and we're going to get into a meditation at the end. So I invite you to imagine that you're going to be part of a larger group of people that is coming together at this precise time, because it is a very fortuitous time on our planet. So I'm going to start off with the astrology, and then I'm going to go into a brief look at the alchemy, and then we're going to get to a practice, a meditation. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is share a chart for today with y'all. This solstice is exact sometime between 1:48 and 1:49 p.m. Pacific time. Exact just means that is the precise moment that our sun moves into Capricorn. So let's start off by looking at this chart. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger in case it's helpful. So up here at the top right-hand corner, we have our sun at 0 degrees of Capricorn. So 0 degrees of 4 particular signs of the cardinal signs is what's known as the world axis. This means that this event is going to be a globally experienced event. And that makes perfect sense because we are all awakening to this idea of oneness. And one of the overarching themes of this particular solstice is there's so much that's right at the end of a sign and so much that's right at the beginning of a sign. So there's so much that is likely feeling old and coming to a close and ready to be done. And there's so much that's also coming through. So sun in Capricorn, we just came through sun in Sagittarius. Sagittarius, the archer, the explorer, the outlandish visionary, has just been really helping us get excited about all these ideas that we have. And we likely have the sense of our little inner child self being lit up with so much joy. Oh, I could do that. I could do that. And now we have Capricorn saying, okay, start to ground it down. What can you do? What can you do today? What can you do in the near future that will start to pull this dream, this vision of yours into reality? So sun in Cap is going to do just that. On the world axis is going to tell us that we are the global change makers that we seek. This sun at 0 degrees Capricorn is square to Jupiter at 0 degrees of Aries. Here's Jupiter right here. Aries also happens to be one of the 4 cardinal signs. It's on the world axis. It's pretty rare to have these things on the world axis as one, but we've got 2, if not more of these, and I'll share what that's about. So Jupiter, planet of expansion, tells us in Aries, it's the I am planet. It's really helping us to harness our individual power. I've spoken a lot about that. I'm going to continue to speak about it, but that's also why we're bringing in the idea of alchemy. This stuff isn't outside of us. What we're really healing is the collective shadow side, that there's this thing that we seek is somewhere out there that we are not yet worthy. So this Jupiter at 0 degrees Aries squaring sun and Cap, squaring, in traditional astrology is seen as a challenge. I offer it is a challenge to support us in raising the energetic bar of ourselves. So the things that come up are realizations about how we're believing, acting, emoting, vibrating, that we intuitively know, I could do a little better. I could switch that up. We also have at this time Ceres at 0 degrees of Libra. Ceres is the goddess of agriculture, grain, fertility, and all things mother-like and life-giving. She's in Aries. No, she's in Libra. Libra, the sign of harmony and balance, but really the sign of cosmic justice. So this is indicating this Gaia coming online to support us all in awakening and how important we really are to participate as a part of this new era, this cosmic justice that we seek. So this is also Ceres is at 0 degrees Libra. It doesn't show it in this chart. It's actually squaring the sun and Cap again. So squaring is these realizations that are challenges so that we can vibrate higher. All of these little big giant planets and asteroids are also on the world axis. Libra is another cardinal sign on the world axis. I think this is so cool. So let me quickly run through. I mentioned there's a lot of endings. There's a lot of new beginnings. We have Lilith at 28 degrees of Cancer right down here. Can't see my, so Lilith, Black Moon Lilith, she is in Cancer, which is showing us the shadow side of our emotions, those wounds. So one of the things that's happening around about the end of this year is almost like these little fireflies, flickers of joy, of inspiration, of, oh, I could do that. Oh, that would be cool. Oh, wow. Woo. And then right after that, often on the heels is do. Lilith is kind of supporting us and getting those, and it's in the collective. There's this spark of joy that is our, it almost feels like a little kid self, but we're meant to be such joyful beings. So this is also our adult self. This is our birthright. There's this spark of joy, and the collective is still interwoven with these heavy energies that are saying, here's your limitation. And this is why Capricorn in the sun in Cap is really powerful, because we still have Pluto in Cap, but Pluto's being excavated, but also the sun's here to say, start building those structures. Don't go too quick about it, but be willing to start to make a little bit of action. So Lilith is at the end of Cancer, the last degrees of the sign, symbolizing the end of this emotional heavy energy that's keeping us down. We also have Sedna. Sedna is a, it's not a Kuiper Belt object. It's a trans-Neptunian object. Sedna is at 29 degrees of Aries. Sedna is an interesting myth, and I'll get to her in a future podcast. She's one of the only planets and objects that is not named after a Greek or Roman god. She's named after an Inuit goddess. And briefly, the legend is her father betrothed her to somebody who she didn't want to marry. She refused to marry him. He got really upset. He took her out in a boat. He wanted to drown her. She was hanging on for dear life with her fingers. So he cut off her fingers. She fell to the bottom of the sea. So did her fingers. From her fingers sprouted all forms of magical ocean life. Porpoises, whales, you name it. Sedna is the goddess of all the magical creatures that live beneath the surface. She's also reminding us of this transformation, transmutation, because she rebirthed herself into something that was for so much good. This isn't necessarily about physical death, but it's about that willingness to release and let go so that we can vibrate higher. And I mentioned in the podcast, we also have Manwë. Manwë, divine feminine energy. Divine masculine energy, my apologies. Divine masculine energy at the end of the sign of the twins. If you remember a podcast about the twins, Gemini is often known, and its shadow side is this shape-shifting energy that says one thing and does another. But the neat thing about Gemini is it's reminding us that we can instantaneously shift from where we are if we realize it isn't optimal, and just go and do the opposite thing, because we can. Manwë is the divine vision, and it's reminding us that there's so many, there's limitless visions, and that we can instantly pivot our energy and our vibration towards what it is that we want. Jupiter is also at 0 degrees of Aries. Jupiter, I mentioned this, Jupiter is the I am planet. I won't spend too much time. Saturn is at 27 degrees of Aquarius. So Jupiter's at the start of something. Saturn, the planet of limitation, is at the end of Aquarius. So we've often, kind of like Sag, probably had a lot of big visions about where we're headed in the future. Saturn is helping us to put some structure to that. Aquarius is still supporting us in remembering that we are capable of doing everything that we want to do. We're closing out that cycle with Saturn in Aquarius. Pluto at 27 degrees of Capricorn, that's been going for quite some time. It's going to be here for a little bit longer. Pluto in Cap is all about death and rebirth of the structures that we know it. But you got to love that the sun is also coming through to help us remember that it's time to ground down. Finally, we have the galactic center at 27 degrees of Sag right here, conjunct Varda. So there's a podcast about that. I won't go into too much detail. The last thing I'll mention is Ixion. Ixion is at 2 degrees of Capricorn. 2 degrees is also considered the world axis. Ixion is interesting. He's known in many myths as a darker brother of Pluto. Pluto's already the planet of death and rebirth. In Ixion's dark side, he's super selfish. He's a murdering criminal. He just does what he wants because he wants to do it. In his bright side, he's the sovereignty that we're headed towards. This complete freedom complete freedom for service to the highest good, for service to the collective, for getting on our soul's path, complete freedom from everything that subconsciously holds us back. That's the kind of ick that comes in when we have these sparkly visions and then something comes in. That's not true. That's fear. Fear is not true. Ixion is right next to the sun to help us remember that this type of sovereignty that we are seeking and that we know is our birthright is unlike anything we've ever seen before. This is going to get me to a quick, hopefully, discussion of alchemy. So alchemy originated where? It came around about 2,000 years ago. What's where we know it on this planet? In Egypt, in China, in India. It also was right after Egypt, the Arabs picked it up. I'm going to focus on Egypt because that is where I have the most experience, but I'll reference a couple other things. So prior to Egyptians, Atlanteans practiced alchemy. Atlantis was a civilization that was super able to harness the vast power of crystal technology. Some of the people that had that power didn't always use it well, which is why it imploded. But Atlanteans sent a colony to Egypt. So Egyptians are descendants of Atlanteans. So they understand and are the holders of this lineage of alchemy. And the Atlantean colony was founded by the Egyptian god Thoth. Thoth was a person, but he also became a god. And he lived for many, 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 many lifetimes supporting Egyptians in understanding this idea of alchemy. Interestingly enough, when we think about the general subject of alchemy, we often think of, what often comes to mind, I think, in our collective, and you can see if this resonates for you, is it's kind of this image of these esoteric paintings that you don't really know what they are. And often there's a white dude with long hair and a still, and he's trying to raise lead to gold. That's the Philosopher's Stone. The physical version of alchemists were those people who wanted to work in the 3D world and create gold. There's a spiritual side of alchemy as well. And that the spiritual side doesn't have to be separate from the physical side, but the spiritual side are those who sought immortality. They sought ascension. They realized that the quest is ultimately to transform oneself because we are the conduits. And if we can transform ourselves, everything in our life is going to vibrate up. If we vibrate higher, everything we are going to attract is going to vibrate higher. Alchemy was really well known and openly practiced. There was a library in Alexandria in Egypt where alchemists from around the world came. And it was possibly potentially all destroyed, but also it's really hard to find this stuff on the internet, but I'm going to present it in a course, what I have found. There's a future course coming out about magic and alchemy and Egyptian magic, which I'm super excited to share. But for now, just know that the library in Alexandria in Egypt was the mecca for all this information. The Arabs came through and they added to a little bit of that knowledge. So when the library was lost, it's thought that all this was lost, but actually it's not all lost. The Arabs, this really hard to find this stuff on the internet and it's not really in print, but there's some things that I found that have shown that a lot of this information is still available. That being said, kind of like energy healing, I mentioned in the last gathering about energy healing, how, in the past, energy healing was something that was behind high walls, was institutionalized, was for the select few, was very expensive, or took a lot of time. It wasn't to be shared broadly. And now we have, in my gathering, at the last lunar cycle, I feel strongly that energy healing should be made available to anybody who wants to work with light and do this work on the planet. That is precisely what's needed to help us all ascend and heal and make the bright future we want. I'm going to offer the same thing is true of alchemy. So when we think of alchemy, it's kind of similar. It's behind closed doors, high walls, inaccessible, hard to understand. You need to be trained. It's going to take a really long time. And what I've learned from dabbling in alchemy for however many years I've been doing it is that we are just like energy healing. We already are it. We're doing it. It's a matter of creating that sacred space and cultivating that sacred understanding, and then just putting the pieces together so that we can live like the immensely sovereign beings that we are. So what we're going to do, I'm going to get to Egyptian alchemy in a second. Then we're going to get into the elements and the directions and go into a meditation. But first, I want to start to share my screen. Where is it? Okay. So if you've ever been to the pyramids or you've looked at the images that are available widely about the different carvings that are on the walls, everywhere you go, there's just all these esoteric pictures that are hard to decipher, very much like alchemy. If you think about that black and white image, and the reason why that happened after Egypt was because alchemy reached Europe, it reached the church, it was deemed as evil, and the information had to be hidden. Alchemy in the past has been used for dark. It's said that it was the alchemists discovered gunpowder and cannons. They weren't to be used for death purposes, but that's what somebody transmuted it into. So in the past, it was put into symbols because it was as if for those who had eyes to see and ears to hear would understand what those symbols meant. If you didn't know what it meant, you weren't an initiate and you couldn't understand the picture. That's personally how I feel when I look at a lot of those black and white pictures. This is interesting, but what does it mean? But I also felt like this when I look at these Egyptian pictures, but I feel much more at home about these pictures. But they are very likely, if you look at what this couple's doing, they're using their hands to hold energy, to send energy. They're seated, there's things on a table that are likely being heated by a stove. There's all sorts of other glyphs around that are saying how they're doing, what they're doing and how they're doing it. Let me share one more. This is one of my favorite ones. This is just to kind of introduce the idea that we might already know more than we think we do. So this is another image, and I love this image because if we look on the left, there's this person doing something very much like energy healing. They're holding their hands, and there's three other people facing them. The guy in the front and the guy in the back with the raven's head both have staffs in one hand and an ankh in another, as if to ground down the energy and to use the ankh to harness the energy. And the person in the middle has two other instruments that they're using. And then there's all these glyphs that are showing those who have eyes to see and ears to hear what it is that they're doing. But if we think about what we know of Egypt and what we likely have experienced in school, I don't know about you, but whenever they introduce Egypt in grade school or high school, and they say it's one of the great feats of the world, and it's one of the most incredible things, and no one knows how it came to be. Okay, next chapter, let's get into American and European world history. And then, if you're really sitting there, you're like, wait a second, nobody knows how they did that. One of the ways they did this was by harnessing energy, alchemy. So alchemy in Egyptian comes from the word chem. Chem, K-H-E-M, refers to the natural process of transformation along the Nile. And the Nile flooded every year. The Nile was the source of life force energy for the Egyptians. The waters of the Nile went into the underground conduits beneath the pyramids. It's what created those pyramids into batteries or power plants, if you will. It was the water that helped create the electrical current in many cases. The water also was responsible for depositing something called chem. Chem is that super rich, just like a hyper organic soil. Hyper-organic soil because it was so fertile and it was integral to supporting all the agriculture and all the life in Egypt. So this was something that might seem very mundane. Soil. That's how obvious this stuff is. When we get to an experience of the elements and the directions and we realize that we are the embodiment of that, that's how obvious this stuff is. So soil is one of the foundational roots of alchemy in Egypt. I mentioned about the Egyptian library in Alexandria. I want to mention also the god that was known to bring this information to Egypt. He's the ibis-headed god Thoth. Thoth in this photo is holding two things in his hand. In his right hand, he's got a scroll. It's rolled up like a piece of paper. In his left hand, he's got a little writing instrument. He was a scribe and was known to lead scribes. Scribes weren't just people who wrote things down. They were the magicians. They were the magicians, excuse me. Scribes were the magicians. They were the alchemists. And it was a sacred high priest right to be a scribe, as if they were writing some sort of rituals and practices down for transmutation. And this gift of knowledge of writing and of being a scribe came from Thoth. It was one of the most sacred things to the Egyptians. Thoth also brought medicine and mathematics and agriculture and religion and magic and alchemy to the Egyptians. I mentioned that Thoth was understood to have several human lifetimes and also many incarnations. And then he also became a god. And so he is one of the central figures in the Egyptian pantheon. Thoth was said to give the world the gift of Emerald Tablet. Thoth had 3 incarnations as humans after he passed. The third one was Hermes. So we know of the Emerald Tablet, as being written by Hermes. I'm not going to cover that today. That'll be in the future course about what that tablet really means. But what I would like to offer is, again, to realize, to be open to the idea that this is way more simple than we may have been told and we may think. This stuff is truly within us. So we're going to transition a little bit away from Egypt into a more general idea of alchemy. Before I do that, I want us to kind of sit with this for a second and see how this may feel for you. When I understand Egypt, I'm always fascinated, and it feels like home. And I love the idea that and this is my idea, I'm sure many others have it, that what's written on the walls of all those structures they built is sacred information and is here to help us awaken, and that we are the alchemists that we speak. I asked the live gathering, who do we think the alchemists are today? And I offered that it's us. Anybody who's on the path of ascension, of enlightenment, of wanting to make the world a better place. And we're looking around and we're seeing a world that in the physical world seems really hard and heavy, and how are we going to fix it? And there's a spark within us that knows. That's that spark that I'm talking about. It's starting to come online right now. Little fireflies sparking around. That's precisely the remembering of ourselves as magicians. And it's interesting to note that the word magician in ancient Hindu meant one devoted to esoteric knowledge. So magician is a sacred priestly role. Also, imagination. I talk a lot about in courses having to do with healing and seeing and doing readings, that our imagination is actually so essential. We get shamed as little kids as our parents tell us, it's just your imagination. Our imagination is the essential, easiest portal for us to understand higher dimensions and to be on the quick path of remembering. And imagination, the etymology of imagination means to have a magician within. Okay, so let's try this again. I'm going to share my screen. And this is just to give us a little bit of a understanding of the 4 elements. So the 4 elements, as I've mentioned, are spirits. They're energies and intelligences that exist in higher dimensions, and they come through as we know them as the elements of fire, water, earth, and air. To the alchemists, we're going to start with air, which is in the upper left-hand corner, the upwards triangle with the line across it. In the physical, and I talked about how there's the 3D version of raising lead to gold, the physical interpretation of alchemy, and there's the spiritual version of raising ourselves towards ascension and abundance and refining our energy so that we shine very brightly. So for the physical version of alchemists, air was essential for distillation. Distillations could take many months. For the spiritual aspect of alchemy, air purifies our mental body. Air it's a generating, magnetizing, moving element. And we are the embodiment of air because we breathe. So as you take in that breath, feel how you are air. Air is within you. You inhale air, you exhale air. And if you think about the energy of a stormy, windy day, when we get over the fear of the wind, we can feel the kinetic, magnetizing energy of the air. And it very much magnetizes our things in our mental body. The next element to the right is fire, upward facing triangle. For the alchemists, fire and water were the 2 primary elements. Air and earth were secondary. So fire is a primary element. It's essential in distillation in the physical realms. And it also, in the spiritual realms, it represents constant change, because fire is always dancing, it's always evolving, it's always consuming or transforming. And there are four kinds of fire to the alchemists. In the physical level, there was something called elementary fire. And this was like, we consider common things like candles and campfires. So day-to-day things, elementary fire. There was something in the spiritual world realm, there was this celestial fire. This is divine fire. It's known as the white fire of divinity. In between those two, in between elementary fire and celestial fire, was something called fire of creation. And fire of creation was what they used when they were performing magic. And the final fire was called the secret fire. And this was the highest form of fire of all. It's the quintessence. Quintessence is related to the element ether, but it's really the spirit, the soul, the grace that makes transformation possible. Fire energetically stimulates, catalyzes, it can motivate energies. And in our bodies, it's found both in our muscles. You know, when we work our muscles, we build up heat, we work up a sweat. It's also in our digestion. Digestive fire is something that's known through many ancient cultures. Going down to the second row to the left is water, downward facing triangle. So this is the other primary element. It's essential not only in distillation, but it's the building block of the world in many traditions, including alchemy. You know, we've talked about the primordial sea out of which all life has been born. And for the spiritual practice of alchemy, they considered it something that baptizes you. It would baptize you into dissolution. Dissolution would be removing any heavy energy, anything that wasn't pure. It would also baptize you into distillation, which would be bringing something new into life, bringing new energy into one's field or into whatever one was working on. Water energetically absorbs and it purifies. If you think about if you've ever spent time in a healing hot spring or how it feels to watch the rain cleanse the natural world, water is definitely a purifying agent. And we are water in that all the fluids in our body are water, and we are the microcosm to the macrocosm of Gaia. 98%, whatever, the 90% of our bodies are water. Same thing is the case with Mother Earth, which brings us to the final element, or the common element, which is the earth element, downward facing triangle with a line across it. It's called a secondary element, but really it's interesting because it's known as the element upon which all other elements can build. It's the foundation. It's the womb of creation. So it's in the physical realms, they talk about it as whenever you're doing a distillation, if you produce a salt or any form of matter, you're producing earth. In the spiritual element, the idea of earth and salts purify and eventually support creating new versions of ourselves and new versions of things that we are trying to create. So as I mentioned, earth holds space and it is the foundation upon which all elements build. And in our bodies, the earth is our bones. The final element, which is a more esoteric element, is often called ether. Spirit, space. In alchemy, it's called quintessence. And there's really no qualities other than that it simultaneously is the universal field. It's all of matter and it's all of the space which exists within matter. So it's everything. So let's go ahead and shift a little bit. I'm going to pull up one more image. We're going to get ready for a meditation. We're going to get ready for the healing practice. So go ahead. You can close your eyes. You can close your screen. But take a second to just come into this body, come into this vessel. Notice how you're feeling right now. And see if you can, when you bring your awareness to your body, just let your spine be straight. You consider lie. Let your spine be straight. Let your shoulders relax. Let your jaw relax. Let your face relax. And notice if there's any areas in your body where you might be holding tension. Maybe you can bring the energy of your breath to that area and just support yourself in relaxing more deeply. Beyond your physical body, maybe notice your energetic field. And start to feel and sense how you simultaneously are very much this 3D physical self. And we'll get into an experience of how you are all the elements. You're very much in this physical world, but you're also not of it. You're so much your energy, your kinesthetic awareness. And with that, we're going to begin our practice. I'm going to invite you with your eyes closed to imagine, or you can actually physically turn. We're going to start by turning to the direction of the sunrise. I'm going to do this for the Northern Hemisphere folks, as these are live, but if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, you'll know what to do. In the North, you can, in your mind's eye, turn yourself to face the east, the direction the sun rises, or you can actually physically turn to face the direction of the east. And by physically turning to face that direction, you're addressing that spirit, that energy of the east. And in the energy of the east, there is the element air. I often experience and imagine myself standing on some kind of a plateau at sunrise, and there's this wonderful soft breeze. And just by simply bringing your awareness to meet these two spirit energies, the elemental spirit of air, the directional spirit of the east. These spirits are always present, but they are responding to your connection to them, and they are coming to meet you and be with you. And feel the energies of these spirits with you, air and east. And when you're ready, we'll take a quarter clockwise turn. I'm going to turn to the direction of the south. As you turn to the south, you're addressing it. You're addressing this spirit energy. The element associated with the south is fire. Maybe you picture a small campfire or a big bonfire, whatever kind of fire. Watch those flames dancing, always being reborn right in front of you. Maybe you can feel the heat of the fire, the transformative energy of the fire. And just simply by bringing your consciousness, your awareness, which is the space of all your power to address the direction, south, and the element fire, these spirit energies are coming. They're everywhere. They're universal, but they're arriving to greet you, to meet you, to be with you. And see if you can feel that. Feel the energy start to build. When you're ready, take another quarter clockwise turn to face the direction of the sunset, the direction of the west. You're addressing the direction of the west. The element of the west is water. Water in traditional Chinese medicine is associated with darkness. I love the image of a vast body of water with the luna hanging above the water. So it's a night sky. There's darkness, but you can see the water because of the reflection of the moon. So connecting to the element water, connecting to the direction of the west, simply by turning your soul, your spirit, your consciousness, and addressing them, these spirit energies are here with you. And see if you can continue to feel the energy build. When you're ready, another quarter clockwise turn to the direction of the north. North is earth. Imagine you're standing barefoot on this super soft, lovely, warm earth, and you're gazing out into a vast canopy of trees and natural world. You can smell the freshness of the air. So turning to this direction, also connecting to the direction of the north. And notice how just by turning to address this direction of the spirit, you can feel these energies, these spirits are coming to be with you. And we'll complete the circle by taking one more quarter clockwise or quarter circle turn in the clockwise direction, back to where we started, back to the direction of the east. And so all of these energies, all of these spirits are here with us. And as you feel these energies, also start to sense that they're outside you. They're greeting you. They're infusing themselves into your field. They're within you. As you take a breath, feel your chest rise, feel the air in your body. Maybe bring your awareness down to your belly. Imagine the fire of your digestion. Bring your awareness into all the cells of your body that are made up of mostly water. The awareness to your bones within you, that structure that holds and supports all of you. And start to imagine and feel yourself as this physical house for these sacred spirits. You already are this. It's a matter of acknowledging the power within you. And so now in this sacred space, these elements, these spirits are listening. And at the start of our gathering, I invited the idea that round about this time, we're going to start to be getting these flashes, these sparks, these firefly ideas of just such goodness, joy, love, excitement, enthusiasm, just something that might feel interesting and inspiring for you to do, to become, to create. Or maybe it's just the feeling. We're going to start to cultivate this feeling. We're going to start to charge ourselves up. So you can imagine you've got this energetic field of yours. And we're going to start to focus and hone in on holding this energetic vibration. And maybe you can imagine yourself just fully relaxed and fully realized. Maybe there's a very clear thing that you're doing. Maybe it's not clear at all, and you're just focused on feeling the love and the joy. The more we charge ourselves up, especially when we do it in ceremony, especially when we're calling on these spirits, the more we are, this is how we create our future. So just even if it's super nebulous to what it is that you're charging up, or maybe it's a very specific thing that you can just feel the joy, feel the enthusiasm, feel the love, feel the support, feel the freedom of being you. And I mentioned earlier, feel the godliness, the divinity that is you. Your birthright is to remember that you are everything. So just charge up your field as if you've got this, your field, your aura is this surround sound movie screen. And there's just these images, these flashes, these different energies that are just playing out. And allow yourself to just cultivate these energies for a little bit. This is you creating your future. And we're doing so on a very fortuitous day. This is the day where we're rounding the bend. As I mentioned, it's the day where the seed turns for the Celts. The seed was pointed down and it's still underground. Things are still being cultivated. They're not yet popping into the 3D world, but the seed's going to turn up. By turning up, it's signaling that it's going to start to sprout at some point soon. So everything's super beneath the ground right now, but feel that this is what you're doing. This is an alchemical form of magic. You're acknowledging your own divinity, your own energetic power as a sovereign being, and you're projecting and creating with your consciousness that which it is you are feeling drawn towards. And it very much feels sometimes like little kid energy. We're meant to be such joyous adult beings throughout our whole lives. So joy, love, peace, harmony. Just continue to cultivate that energy for a little bit. And it's as if you're charging this vessel, physical vessel, energetic vessel up. Wonderful. And now we're going to start to come together in circle, but it's going to be not a circle. It's going to be a web. I invite you to imagine a web, a global web of light. And at first imagine yourself, your soul is this powerful, you've charged it up. You're this beautiful beaming orb of light. And everybody that's gathered live, all 45 or 50 of us, and all the people that watch this afterwards are going to be contributing. And it's as if there's these beautiful, bright orbs of light that are coming online as we acknowledge each other. And as soon as we come online, just like the image of the universe and the neurons in the way the universe grows, the way our brain cells grow, there's this network. There's a little neuron and there's these tendrils that reach out and interact with every single other node. So we're instantaneously understanding our own light, and we're creating a web that's interconnected. Every single soul is connected to every single other soul. And as you do that, you can sense that all of these beings have been spending time in this meditation on this day or whenever they find this, and they're just charging up love, peace, joy, light. And as the Buddhists say, you know, where two are gathered, there's thousands. So where 100 are gathered, there's 100,000. This energy is exponential, and we are so powerful. You know, our cells can light Las Vegas for days. We're so powerful. We're so divine, and we're so worthy. So start to feel now that you're connected, that you're seen, and that you're one with this web. And you'll probably start to get little flutters, little flashes of everybody else's dreams and visions. And in the Tibetan culture, they call them wind horses. When you hang up the prayer flags, they believe that a wind horse will come through each flag and take every intention. Every flag has an intention, and wind horse comes and takes it and goes and does whatever needs to be done to make that intention happen. So there's these little wind horses that are carrying all of these intentions through this network of light, through this network that is infused by every single human being and all the spirits that we've called, that exist in the ether, in the universe, and exist within us. And as we awaken to it, we expand, we come to shine even more brightly. So start to also understand how you're holding space for everyone else's dreams, is everyone else's visions, is, well, it's the principle of reciprocity. Reciprocity means I give to you because my cup is full. And by turning your attention and saying to you're declaring to yourself, I've set my intention. My cup is full. Now let me hold space for everyone else. And let me just imagine these flutters, these flashes, these wind horses that are weaving their way through the network are exponentially gaining power and going out within the network and beyond it to begin that process of the seed is just turned up. It's going to start to sprout. And just be with that energy. Maybe you can feel it building. Maybe you can feel yourself as a part of this web of divinity, of love, of light, of limitless possibility. Wonderful. And know that as time goes on, the universe there's no time and space in the universe. Everybody that listens to this now in the gathering, everybody who's here, whenever you find it, this web of light exists beyond time and space. So it's going to continue to grow, and it's going to grow exponentially because every person that gathers is worth 10 to 100 people in the math of the universe. And when you're ready, declare to yourself, and so it is, for yourself and for everyone. We're going to slowly come back. Take all the time that you need. And we've just addressed all the directions and all the elements. And in certain walks of this work, you address everybody in a circular motion in Northern Hemisphere, and then you call off all the spirits when you're done. And I would like to offer, if that's what you would like to do, definitely do that. One of the things that I've discovered that really resonates with me, and I want to invite you to do this if this feels right, is kind of like those wind horses. We're gonna thank the directions and the elements, and we're gonna invite them to stay with us for as long as they feel is necessary. So it's saying, thank you, hang out with me if you'd like to. And to do that, we're gonna use I've got some things. We're gonna use the earth element is gonna be sage from the garden, and Palo Santo. Palo Santo is so cool. It is, you can't kill this tree and harvest the wood. It has to naturally die in order for it to be smell as magical as it does. And then for the air element, I've got an eagle feather, but also some of the smoke from the sage and the Palo Santo is going to be part of that air element. I've got a candle here for fire, and then the water element is going to be what we're going to put out. So we're going to address, first we'll start with the sage. And this is going to be thanking the element of earth and the direction of the north. Thanking the element earth and the direction of the north for their presence and their blessings. And just imagine that you're breathing in this sage. So you've just charged yourself up. This sage will keep you cleansed and purified and protected. So we have fire, earth, air, and then we will thank the water for also purifying us. And we'll move next to the Palo Santo. Palo Santo, very supportive in opening ourselves and our visions to higher realms. So as we exist in these physical bodies and we're endeavoring to exist in higher dimensions, this elemental earth spirit is here to help us. We're going to move into the air part of it. So imagine that you're breathing this in. This Palo Santo is here to help you continue to create, be joyful, keep the high visions. And the water element is here to put the fire out, and then this will be poured at the goddess altar this evening on solstice. So with that, we've honored the spirits. It's always nice to honor the spirits because they give so much to us and we can receive so much from them. So I'm going to invite you, if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments. I mentioned that I'm going to be teaching a class in mid to late January. It's going to be a pretty deep dive into all this stuff. I'll just put up a quick little share about this. It's Egyptian Alchemy and Egyptian Magic, and it's called Remember Who You Are. So have a look on if you're on my email list, have a look. I'll give a shout out when the course is ready. But it's going to be a deeper dive into alchemy and specifically what we know, as I've glossed over lightly today, of alchemy from the Egyptians. All right. Thank you guys for joining. Happy solstice, bright blessings. So much love.